Hello, welcome to One of Days with Baz. Today I'm going to be teaching you the basics of Python SDK. And the Python SDK isn't very well documented for newbies. So as a newbie myself, I've went and learned a lot of things independently, putting together all the pieces, searching on Google. So to save yourself the trouble of having to do that, I've compiled a list of some of the things I've learned, and um, once a day or so I want to document at least one of them. So the first one on the list is creating a texture. And I don't have anything planned, so we're going to kind of take a look at some code I wrote and dissect the relevant parts together as far as creating a texture. So let me open up my code. And just search for, what am I looking? I don't even, base material. Okay, here we go. So to create a texture or material, you're going to want to have a name for it. And then, so I use mat. So mat equals c4d.baseMaterial. And then this is the type of material, and this is just your standard type of material. So this will create the material that, like, if you double click and create new material from the menu, this is the one. I don't know about all of the other kinds of materials, sorry. So then you can set the name of the material if you'd like, or the title of it. And that's how you make a material. And then if you want to customize it, here, let me open up C4D. So, sorry that took a while, but yeah, double click and you get the material. So, if we want to just test our Python, we can go ahead and create a null and right click it and give it a Python tag. And this is a way, or you can also go to script console. That'll bring up this console where you can also type one-liners. I find it not so easy to do multiple lines of code from here. Just sometimes it's really like a one-line deal. So if you want to actually manipulate the material and you don't know how to access all these properties yet, what you want to do is have your console open in the material editor. And say you want to make a texture in the color channel. What you do is you grab this, drag it over here, and you get the property name, for lack of better words. So in this case, it's C4D to material color shader. And I think that's what I've done. I created. So how do you create a shader? Because you actually got to create a shader itself. So this is a little extra than just creating a material, but if you're creating material, you're going to want to populate the data. So in this case, I was making, I needed a color shader, so I can only help, but at least I can lay down the groundwork for you. Here I go, color shader equals c4d.baseShader, and then I had the ID of a color shader. Now how did I get that ID? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. You click, I love that. I got that vibe from, who was it? I'm going off on a tangent. No tangents. So here's how you do that. You create the texture first manually. So I'm going to make a color shader. I get the color shader. And then I think I just hit enter on this guy. And now that there's something in there, I get the ID 1018767. And there you see I used the ID that I discovered or extrapolated from this little experiment, and you can use that yourself for other kinds of shaders. Now there's probably, like, what you're going to find out with the Python SDK is that some things have actual constants for them, like actual labels that you can use instead of a raw ID, and then you're going to find out that some of them aren't listed in the documentation, which was the case for me with this one. So I don't know about if, like, we can replace these IDs with text constants, which would be preferred, but I don't know. Okay, so now you know how to do that. I'm kind of curious what happens if we clear this and then ask for its value. Yeah, nothing. Okay. Alright, so now we've made a material, we just created a shader. Now we need to add the shader. So we can go here, and using that property that we discovered, we can say that it equals the color shader. And then we also have to say mat.insert shader color shader. And I gotta be honest with you, since I'm also part noob here, is I don't know if it's exactly necessary to use both of these lines or if only one of them is necessary. I'm not sure, but I use these two and I have a working demo. So you insert the shader into the material, and then you have to insert the material into the document. So doc insert material, we insert material, and now this pred equals none is just if there's like an associated ordering, you can put in an object that you want this material to be inserted alongside, and you can experiment with it to see if it goes to the left or right of the object that you put here. Or when I say object, I mean, probably another material goes there in this context, but I'm not sure. You'd have to figure it out. Check names equals true. What this does is it checks, this is actually documented. These both are documented in the documentation. Check names checks if a material with the same name is already in the document, this will automatically append, like in traditional style, how it appends the different number to the new material. I'll just do an example. So you see this is mat, and then I got mat.1. If you put check names, you're going to get this behavior. Otherwise, they're both going to say mat if you set that to false. Oh, so once you've made the actual texture, you've given it a shader, for instance, on a certain color channel, and now you kind of know if you want to do other things, you kind of know how to figure it out. And if not, you can, don't hit me up. I'd say post on a forum like C4D Cafe or Plugin Cafe. So those are two useful destinations for if you're trying to do different things and you need to actually ask questions. I recommend C4D Cafe and then Plugin Cafe, which is the official Maxon development support for plugins. Okay. It doesn't have to be plugins, it can just be SDK stuff. So what was I trying to get at? Oh yeah, we have to now actually add a texture tag, because that's what automatically happens when you apply. I'm gonna get this stuff out of the way. When you apply texture, so for instance, let me make an object, a cube, and let me apply this to the object. You see what happened when you apply a texture to the object, it creates this texture tag. This is what we want to create programmatically in some cases, so I'm going to teach you that too, since it's very, very closely related to the creation of a texture. If you want the texture to actually have an effect on something, you got to add the texture tag. So, how do we do that? Well, I'll show you. I'll show you right now. First, we got to create the tag. This is how I do that. So you're going to use c4d.textureTag. Pretty simple, right? Then you're going to specify some properties. And I did the same experience before, whereas to get these certain properties that I wanted to modify, all I did was go into my real example here with the console window. Where the heck did my console window go? And I would just drag certain things. So like say I wanted to specify UVW mapping, I would drag that in there, I'd get this, and then the result for UVW mapping, I'd get its value, which is 6. And once again, I don't know where the actual text constants are. So I'm not, maybe if you're watching this and you can post a comment telling us, thank you. But this is how I did it without having that knowledge. Grab the number. And I actually did that here. So you see that? I set you want to set the material that the texture tag relates to. So you need to set to this one as well, which is, this is automatically done for you when you create these, when you apply these materials to an object. But yeah, you need to specify that, so you drag that there, you get the thingy, and then you can just use the text name, I think. Or actually, in my case, I just use the actual object, mat. So yeah, you just use the object. I'll check that again. Yeah, it's an object. So cool. So now you know the gist of adding the tag. And when you're done configuring the tag, setting its relevant material and any other properties, then you got to insert it to the object that you want to. You use the object that you've already created. I'm sorry I didn't teach you how to create objects. That would have been a better first tutorial, but we'll do that definitely in the next one. So I'm realizing that I've skipped a lot of the very basic things, actually, like like creating your first script file and what to include. So I'm sorry about that, but this is a custom script. I won't use it as an example. Don't. I'm using external libraries, not something you'd really want to do. So, but anyway, I'm really trying to stick to the point here. You want to use that object and call the insert tag function. Insert the tag. The pred, I already showed you what that means. And then you've inserted a tag. So that's Textures 101 for the Python SDK Cinema 4D. I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed it. Alright, this is Baz signing off. Take care.